Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Welcome to Beyond Your Radio. I'm your Canadian music obsessed host, Mark Kulagowski. I've seen Slick Toxic and Spinal Tap in the same day. I've karaoke New Orleans and singing at a wedding. I've been in Jeff Healey's basement bar where they were covering Thin Lizzy. Right on, eh? Welcome to Albums from the Leaf, episode 7. That's right. We've done 6 of these. So you better go back and watch it like the 1987 Canada Cup. All right. So for those of you that don't know any of that stuff, then you're really not Canadian. Our panelists today have found some lovely, outstanding albums to talk about that have spawned, much discussion, maybe, or maybe they're unknown, known, doesn't matter really. Anything can happen. It's their choice. Now, a country that has spawned the sexiest Ryans on the planet, Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, and gave us great Perrys like Perry Mason and Matthew Perry. There's all kind of greatness in the Great North, and this episode touches on the love of those albums from artists and bands of all genres and showcase, like making a connection, like the Grateful Dude did just last week with Honeymoon Suite, and maybe tonight we make another connection with you out there watching. In order to make that connection, you have to subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, if you have, well, we love you more than most. So what did our panelists bring tonight? Let's find out. Joining me on the panel, the man who defends Honeymoon Suite is actually better than Rush, the Grateful Dude. A man who knows that Rusty is more than just the character from Christmas Vacation, Jeff Young. And the woman whose frequent eater pass at Swiss Chalet has never been revoked, Stu Kulagowski. Greetings, all.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Oh, and we've got another visitor. Albums from the cat. Sue!
He's purposely blocking me.
He wants your attention.
Yeah, it's a ham. Sue, start us off with your album selection.
All right. So I went with Shakespeare My Butt, released in 1991 by the Lowest of the Low. How to describe it? I would say it's kind of raw, it's fun, it's eclectic. It's definitely the spirit of the alternative rock of the 1990s, I think. I'm gonna call them LOL. They brought like a distinctive sound, I guess. I would liken it to, at least this album anyway, kind of like a happy, poppy, pub crawling punk musicality. Ron Hawkins vocals added in. It's just very easy listening. There's nothing. Some of the, well, I guess these are different shows, but it's just a very easy listening album. There's nothing not to like about it. The lyrics kind of go between simplistic and poetic and witty. There's a lot of energy. It covers a lot of different emotions and themes. I think well, according to a certain music app, apparently I tend to go towards moody and darker music. This is not one of those. From what I understand, a lot of the inspiration for the songs and lyrics came from living or being in Toronto, the people that they met out on the streets, literally, to the bar scenes. So it kind of gives you like a little picture of maybe what the city looked like back then, through their eyes. It's still, I would say, it doesn't feel old. It still feels relevant, decades later. And just a good album. I think my favorite songs, 2 of them, Eternal Fatalist, of course, and Salesman, Cheats and Liars. Subversives is a good one. Skylar Harmonica, Rosie and Gray, The Taming of Carolyn. Just about the only blues. I looked this one up on YouTube because there was a live version that was actually shot in Buffalo in 2008, and then Gossip Talking Blues, which is kind of has that feeling of ramped up coffee and caffeine. So, but yeah, it's a good album. I like it, and it's a good band.
Yeah, we have never seen them and had many opportunities to. And this they come around so often. Ron Hawkins is, as a matter of fact, was it last weekend? I believe it last weekend. Band was in town and they were at Hi-Fi Records and they signed some memorabilia. They're well loved here. So and as people who are following us know, I did review, what is it called? The new record? Oh, that's horrible. Dang it. I reviewed it too. The plunge. Welcome to the Plunder Dome. That's it. And it does share that kind of Shakespeare My Butt kind of feel. Ronnie Hawkins writes about simple street names and places. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I didn't look this up or anything. I just would assume that the under the Carlaw Bridge is somewhere in Canada. Although who knows what's under there? Well, they tell you, but you have to listen to the album to find out. Great pick, Sue.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll be right back. You guys keep going.
Okay. Well, let's go to the Grateful Dude and see what he's brought from the Great North.
Well, I basically got, I think, the longest album I've ever reviewed. It is 8 hours and 43 minutes, 147 songs. It is a compilation by, I feel, is the greatest Canadian songwriter singer. I am definitely sure there's a lot of people out there disagree, but I am talking about the immoral, God rest his soul, Gordon Lightfoot. I have actually listened to this album twice in the last 10 days, pretty much in its entirety with a few breaks to eat. But it's a really good album if you want to hear Lightfoot that you've never heard.
What is the album?
I'm sorry?
What
You
is the
want to
name
know
of
what
the
the
album?
album is called?
Oh, the album is the complete. It's called The Complete Albums, 1970 to 1998. It's basically all those albums and put them all together, took the best versions of the songs and put it. There's live versions, regular versions, all kind of versions in there. I love it. Because I mean, I'm a total fan of Lightfoot. I've always have been. I've seen him. The guy's wonderful. His writing is superb. Is he the best Canadian? I don't know. It's subjective. It's very subjective. I think so, but I may be a lone wolf on that one. But if you want to hear, as I said, this is a great album for people who want to hear without having to pick up 27 albums, even though this is like 27 albums. It has some really great songs, really unique songs that he had done, and a bunch of others that you didn't know he wrote,
Right?
Because somebody else made him famous. But that's, as I said, I'm pulling. As I said, this is maybe a kind of album that's not for everybody because it is so long, and a lot of the songs on it they didn't make the top 10 or 100, but I really enjoyed the album. Mark.
Yeah, there's no question that he would be up there in the top 5 in Canada for sure. He's influenced so many people since the dawn of his songwriting and etc. I was kind of wondering if I couldn't put my finger on a song that he wrote and somebody else made famous, but there's probably a ton of them. But what I was trying to find, I was pretty sure he owned one of the clubs in Canada that's still going. I don't know why I thought that, but I can't find it. I don't know if he owns the why can't I think of the name of him? Man, I tasted the olds. It's awful. In Toronto, there's I want to say it was him that owned it. The Horseshoe? Let me say he owned the Horseshoe. He owned the Horseshoe Cat Tavern, but I could be wrong. But solid writing. He probably influenced every Canadian that might be number ahead of him. You know, like Neil Young. So, those are all split sleeves in that casing. I've had it in my hand and was gonna buy it. It's not that expensive, to be honest with you, for all that music. It's like maybe it's $59. It's not bad.
Hey,
Yeah. And his songs,
is that vinyl you're talking about?
no, this was CD. Vinyl
Okay.
on that, but I don't know. That'd probably be a little pricey. If it's even available, I'd even look.
Yeah.
Probably is.
You listen to that whole thing in a day?
8 hours, you could. I'm the outtake kind of things. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I like when they like with Thelonious Monk and those kind of things, they start to throw those in. And I sometimes wish those were just albums all their own, not pieced in. Now I don't know how they are on that one, if they're pieced in or they're separated. Because like with Bob Dylan, they do, you know, a couple of different tracks the way they were done. And I'm like, I just heard this song. Why is it being played again? You know what I mean? It's different, but I'd rather it was left aside. Jeff, I hear that you have something interesting this time around that you know, when you sent me yours, I was like, what?
Yeah, so this one is interesting. Like for all the Canadian bands you and I grew up listening to and trying to discover, I missed this one. And probably because they weren't around that long. So the album is All Hail from 2004 from a band Kill Cheerleader, previously known as Cheerleader 666. So they formed in '99, Toronto, and this album has two album covers because it was re-released. But the first one, I believe, is just a woman in all leather, completely fitted like sex outfit, right? And then
Yeah, I saw that
the other
cover.
one
That's
is more tame. It's like a unicorn with chains and upside down, a couple upside down crosses in the corner, and then you know, like a starry background behind it. But they're influenced by punk rock and heavy metal. Like they listed bands that influenced them as the Stooges, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Girls' School, Joan Jett, and Neil Young. And I guess the one description I saw on them online, it said they had a unique, sleazy style of rock and roll, kind of once described as the derailed train hitting a Baptist church. So whatever that means. But the original members of the group are just childhood high school kids, and they just grew up trying to play cover songs of those bands. And the name came from like what they say was a miserable high school experience, and they often talked about, you know, it'd be fun to beat up jocks and kill cheerleaders. But you know, that's why the name probably isn't so great, because it's from immature kids. But hey, they started off playing shows in Toronto, and they were soon after they started playing clubs in Toronto, they were banned from clubs in Toronto for their on and off stage antics. And then they wound up playing some shows in Southern California after they were invited by Chris Squire, who I'm not familiar with, but he had a grudge punk band called the Tory Cobras. So
Yes.
this album is, for me, it's just straight ahead rock kind of punk. But it's not annoying. It's got really good guitar. Like, the lead guitarist is really good. Like, it's one of those bands that the guitarist plays a lot of good guitar in the background, but it's not just like strumming to, like, not just chugging or your typical da 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 da, typical punk rock. And I mean, if you could listen to that, kind of separately, and you really still appreciate it. And there's your solos and stuff, but they got a couple songs on there too that are actually just not rock. It's a little more acoustic, which is good. So I really like it. It's really good. When they went to California, I read that they met a pro skateboarder, Chris Markovich, and they got one of their songs to be the opening to, like, back in the day in the 80s, pro boarders, if they had a deal, they could release like these skateboard videos and things like that, which I used to watch a lot of.
Okay.
But so they got kind of popular with, Southern California punk rockers and skaters. And they sold about 8,000 demo CDs, and a German record label picked them up and took their unmixed, unmastered recordings and released it as a 7-track LP. It was called Gutter Days, which was only released on a 10-inch vinyl, like in 2003. The cover art for the album is kind of unique. It's a picture of Peter Fonda from the movie Wild Angels, like an animated picture. It was taken from the back cover of the soundtrack LP from the 1966 movie. Like, so they just totally took the picture and used it. They did tour a little bit with Motorhead in Europe. Lemmy from Motorhead invited them to tour in UK, and he talked about them on a couple different .coms and interview he had when he did an interview with Playboy magazine. And he actually called Kill Cheerleader, like, at the time, the greatest rock and roll band since Guns N' Roses. He's probably talking more like early Guns N' Roses, But
yeah.
They broke up in 2006, so they weren't even around that long.
No.
And it was right before they were about to sign a major record deal. They split off. There was like 6 band members. They all went their own way, but they kind of led to creating other bands like Crystal Castle, Goathorn, which turned to Cauldron, Die Mannequin, which I like quite a bit, Darlings of Chelsea, and then Skullfist, who's really more of a European or Japan success. But it's straight a good like party, good music to drive to. It's good guitar work. It's just good. It's just good.
So when did you hear, what was your first?
Yeah, I just bumped in, like I just accidentally found them. Like maybe like not even a week ago, probably like maybe 10 days ago at most. And yeah, it was just like, so I'm like, oh, I just got really interested. So I'm like, I gotta read about this. I gotta figure this out. I gotta listen to it on YouTube. And they really only have like the EP. It was a 6 or 7 song. 6 of the songs on the EP actually turned as re-recorded and a little more polished songs on the LP, which is the one on All Hail. So if you've heard, like, most of Gutter on All Hail, it's like a 12 song.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did.
So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just good. It's like, okay, so you got 12 songs. There's probably half of them are good, a quarter of them are really good, and then there's a couple that are throwaways, but.
Kind of representative of the era. There's always.
But I don't even remember like seeing them, like, for being a Canadian band, like I guess maybe because they're more in LA at the time. Maybe they just kind of just didn't pay attention to Canada once they got into LA. Maybe that's why we never heard of them.
Yeah,
and of course because they were just living the rock and roll life, right?
It does appear that way. Like, they abandoned Canada pretty damn quick and then had to go back to it, right? Well, at least Claudio, whatever his name is, had to. Right, because he did Die Mannequin and Crystal Castle. Cool. Yeah, when I saw the name, I went, I have no idea. I saw the name before because I have a list alphabetically, and I have this, I want to check them all off. So that'll be going to the checkoff list eventually here.
Yeah, I like the album.
Cool. So for me tonight, I wanted to do a new album. I was going to go with a certain new album, but I'm saving that for Saturday. So stay tuned for Saturday. Tonight, I decided to go with Hannah Gorgas. Gorgas, I guess would be her. How you say it? It's Greek. She's been around for a while. It's her new album, I'd Be Lying If I Said I Didn't Care. Now, right off the bat, when you look at this album cover, you're going to notice it's cramped. That's the intention of it. That's where she recorded or put together it. You're getting a bird's eye view. And there's no question that the crampedness is beyond just the space. It's the emotion and the feeling of it, and most of the cramped relationships and exploring those. The indie singer-songwriter who's in Vancouver at the moment, who was born and raised, I think, in somewhere in Ontario, she has a gentle, quirky, yet emotional songwriting that hits like a melancholy indie rock, but she can feather in brighter, like anthemish kind of contemporary pop. And here in this album, I'd Be Lying If I Said I Didn't Care, she's managing to do all this all on her own, except with a few friends that she invited. I'll get to those people in a minute. But this is a much deeper record than even her debut, which was a Juno nominated record. All That Is Good. No, All This Good, something good. Can't remember the name of it. I don't know why. This Is Good. Yeah. So she's doing synth. She's adding loops, got guitar, bass. She's getting help from producer Sean Soroka, who he's from 10 Kills the Pack, which I'll be reviewing this month too. Joined by James McAllister, who's worked with Taylor Swift and Sufjan Stevens. The one I hear the most, Gabe Wax, The War on Drugs, and Soccer Mommy, and even Graham Walsh of Holy Fuck and Mets. There's a variety in the songs, their styles, their sentiments, which are typical of her. But this one is probably my favorite to date. It really has a feel of the band The National in a lot of it. It's got a lot of depth, even in the sparse areas of it. She does a knock-up job of adding in the loops and the sounds that come in and out. So when I think about this and all that's going on, it was in COVID times, that melancholy's there. The album is meant to be uncomfortable, yet it's not that uncomfortable. Kind of, somebody talked about it being like when you jump in the water, when it's too hot and the water's too cold and you're just not comfortable. Then as you get on, you realize how much you're loving it. Like at the beginning, somebody doesn't want to actually go in the water. That's sort of like me at the beach. I want to go hide in the shade. So you can feel like Sleater Kenny, Joy Wave, but what I hear is Beth Orton. I really think this has a lot of depth in the surrounding sound and music. It's definitely worth a listen for albums of the year for 2023, especially on the female side. It's got a lot of wonderful depth, and she's been honing her craft for quite some time. And I think this environment and what she did is the best piece she's put together in her career. So I want to thank my panelists for crossing the northern border once again. We'll do this in 2 weeks. And in that show, I've got a surprise for all of you. Please like and comment. Let us know how we're doing. Tell your friends. Link us. Check out this Saturday's album reviews. There's going to be a great Canadian record or two on that. And as always, thanks for watching and happy listening.